Welcome to English Podcast. Subscribe our channel for more update.
Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to a new deep dive. Today we're diving into something incredibly practical for many of you, tackling those common hurdles in speaking English, especially if you're at that B1 level where you feel like, you understand a lot, but the words just freeze up sometimes.
Right. And our source material for this deep dive is really interesting. It's not a textbook or a grammar guide. It's actually drawn from a podcast specifically created for intermediate English learners, focusing on relatable everyday situations and challenges.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really dig into this source. We want to pull out the most valuable advice and insights they shared, the kind of aha moments maybe, and those practical strategies that can help you navigate those moments of forgetting words or, that frustrating feeling, understanding perfectly, but just not being able to speak when you need to.
Yeah, and the source itself uses slow, clear, everyday English. It's delivered in a very conversational style, which, that itself embodies some of the principles they discuss, really.
Absolutely. And it feels very grounded, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The source starts just by having the hosts chat casually about their morning routines. The usual coffee, maybe listening to a podcast, checking emails, simple stuff.
Well, what's fascinating about that simple start is how quickly it connects to the reality for many learners. Like the hosts mention, you might use English constantly for, say, work emails or reading articles, watching videos, which is excellent input practice. But then comes that moment when you actually have to speak.
Yeah.
And suddenly it feels like a completely different ballgame.
Right. And that brings us straight into the core challenges this source really focuses on. That moment you freeze up, maybe worrying too much about getting the grammar perfect or pronouncing everything just right. It's like your brain has the thought, but there's a barrier getting it out.
And this is where the source offers a really powerful reframing, I think. Their key insight here is that, in most real-world conversations, people prioritize your message much more than perfect grammar or flawless pronunciation. They were way more interested in understanding what you're trying to communicate than sort of judging how you say it.
That is so reassuring to hear. But sometimes it really feels like every tiny mistake is under a spotlight. Did the source offer any specific ways to move past that freezing feeling? Maybe through different learning habits?
Yeah, they did. They shared a few habits they use or recommend. Things like reading short articles, good for vocabulary, seeing sentence structures in action, helps with input. But for the speaking output, they highlighted speaking aloud to oneself.
Oh.
Even if it feels a bit awkward at first. Just practicing forming sentences. And a technique they really emphasized was shadowing podcasts.
Shadowing. Yes. I love how the source explained this. It's not just listening. It's actively mimicking, isn't it? Like an actor trying to copy not just the words, but the speaker's rhythm, their tone, even the way they connect sounds. You're listening and trying to repeat almost at the same time.
Precisely. Yeah. They even gave a simple example in the source using a basic sentence like, I wake up at 7 in the morning.
Right, and they encourage you to practice saying it right along with the speaker, mimicking slightly. I wake up at 7 in the morning. You're really trying to match their flow.
Exactly. It's training your mouth and your ears simultaneously. It builds that muscle memory for the sounds and rhythms of English in a way that just passive listening can't.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's pivot slightly. Another incredibly common problem they discussed, forgetting words. Oh, this one's relatable. You know the word, you've heard it a million times, but in the moment you need it, poof, it's gone.
Happens to absolutely everyone, native speakers included, honestly. And the solution the source proposes is a technique called circumlocution.
Circumlocution. Okay, that sounds a bit technical, like something from a linguistics textbook.
It does sound like that, but the source breaks it down really simply. It just means talking around the word you've forgotten. You describe it using other words you do know. They gave that great example. If you forget the word microwave, you can describe it as the machine that makes food hot quickly.
Oh, yes. I remember that part. And they did that little role play in the source, didn't they?
Right.
Where one host forgot microwave and the other helped by asking questions, kind of leading them to describe it. What that really showed was how circumlocution isn't just about finding the right description. It's a way to keep the conversation going. You don't just hit a brick wall. You find a path around it using the vocabulary you already have.
Exactly that. It keeps you actively participating in the dialogue, even when you have a temporary vocabulary gap. It's a crucial skill for maintaining fluency, really.
Now, the source also touched on the big elephant in the room for many B1 learners, confidence. Feeling nervous, fearing judgment, maybe even feeling a bit embarrassed about mistakes.
That fear is very real. But the source offers a solid counterpoint. They emphasize that most people you interact with are actually pretty patient. They genuinely want to understand you. And crucially, they frame mistakes not as something to be ashamed of, but as an absolutely necessary and valuable part of learning. Mistakes are basically a sign that you are trying, and that's the most important step.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And to make that point, they shared that specific, incredibly memorable anecdote,
Yeah.
the one about the French mistake, saying, I am pregnant instead of I am full.
Ah, yes, that story. The source uses it brilliantly, I think, because it's such a striking example of how sometimes the most awkward or embarrassing mistakes, they're the ones that stick with you the most, aren't they? You learn from them in a way you just never would from reading a rule in a book. They become these powerful, unforgettable lessons.
Exactly. As the source puts it, even mistakes become lessons you never forget. So as they wrapped up, the source distilled all this down into 3 specific actionable tips for B1 learners. Tips for really improving their speaking.
Yeah, they summarized it very clearly. The 3 tips are: 1, make a point to speak English every single day. Even if it's just practicing phrases aloud or talking to yourself, consistency is vital.
Right, daily effort.
2, actively listen to sources with slow, clear English, like the very podcast they were on, and practice shadowing them regularly.
That active practice again.
And 3, finally, and maybe most importantly, don't let the fear of mistakes stop you. Embrace them as learning opportunities and just keep trying.
Simple steps, really, but taken together, they tackle both the technical side and the mindset barriers.
Yeah.
And the source's final thought really resonated with me. They presented English not just as a set of rules or vocabulary to master, but as a powerful tool. A tool to connect with people and the wider world.
Yeah, it shifts the perspective, doesn't it? From like a difficult academic task to more of a gateway for communication and new experiences.
So looking back at this deep dive into the source, we pulled out some key strategies here. The active technique of shadowing to build fluency and rhythm. The practical skill of circumlocution for those moments when words just disappear. And that crucial mindset shift. Embracing mistakes and consistent daily practice aren't optional extras. They're fundamental to progress.
Absolutely. What stands out to me is how this source combines these concrete methods with, psychological encouragement. It's not just do this, it's more like understand why this works and be brave enough to try it. The path to more natural speaking, as presented here, involves active engagement, using smart techniques for difficulties, and fundamentally, building confidence by seeing attempts and errors as essential steps forward, not as failures.
Which brings it right back to you listening. Which of these strategies feels most relevant to your own challenges right now? Or maybe which one feels a little scary, perhaps, but potentially the most impactful if you tried incorporating it into your own practice this week?
And, if we build on that really powerful idea from the source, that mistakes are lessons you never forget, it kind of raises an important question for reflection, doesn't it? What kind of valuable lessons might you currently be avoiding altogether, simply by not speaking and not risking those potential mistakes in the first place?
That's a truly thought-provoking idea to leave you with. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.
Our pleasure. It was a great discussion.
We'll be back soon with more unpacking of interesting sources.